Hey, welcome back to the Joe Silverback Show, part 3 of the Wisdom Traditions, where we were talking about Chinese thought, Taoism, the I Ching and the Tao Te Ching. So it is extremely difficult as a Westerner to discuss a philosophical viewpoint and a spiritual viewpoint from somebody who's not born into that tradition or culture. I can only tell you about my own understandings, which are very, very limited, but why I think it's really, really important. So the Tao Te Ching and the I Ching are not about telling us about causality. Rather, they are talking about coincidences and synchronicities and the constant change of nature, and therefore the constant movement in and out, yin and yang. And synchronicity versus causality is basically that every action and reaction, every event that takes place in the world of nature has all kinds of possibilities of interferences, and these chance patterns of things are part of the human condition that we have to be able to accept and become aware of. I'm going to read to you one of the from the Tao Te Ching, and I studied 20 different translations in my 20s, and I should probably study 20 more translations again in my 50s. A professor of mine, Professor Wiley Yip, at UCSD, he was one of my creative writing poetry professors who was quite innovative in taking us into the woods and letting us try to learn how to write creatively what came to us. But I'm talking about him because he is one of the his life work was dedicated to translating a great deal of Chinese classics into the English language, and we owe him a debt of gratitude by not just translation, but by bringing into, for anyone who really wants to understand how the Chinese mind works, that's different from the Western mind and how the Western mind works. Having said all of that, my main purpose is to help people not become afraid of what they don't know, and have, through becoming more familiar with what you don't know, you become less afraid of it, and maybe you might even have some epiphany. And meditation is something that all meditation is born from wisdom traditions, and self-reflection, contemplation, giving deep thought and attention and awareness to wisdom tradition sayings is what we need more of. When you're looking at the Tao Te Ching, it's passages to reflect upon and meditate upon. And when you're looking at the Bible, you're reading a combination of things. You're reading history, you're reading stories, and you are also reading aphorisms, wisdom statements, and metaphysical sayings that can be and should be reflected upon and meditated upon, as do any human being who wants to absorb it. So, number one from the Tao Te Ching, the Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. The nameless is the beginning of heaven and earth. The name is the mother of 10,000 things. Ever desireless, one can see the mystery. Ever desiring, one can see the manifestations. These two spring from the same source but differ in name. This appears as darkness. Darkness within darkness, the gate to all mystery. Now, that is not a straight line by any chance. But darkness within darkness, the gate to all mystery, when you go inside yourself, there is darkness. And self-reflection and meditation is all about understanding the great mystery that life presents to us and allowing light to come into the darkness and allowing darkness to cover the light and allowing light to come into the darkness, and not being afraid of either one of them. The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. Now that is, as some of you very wisely will jump upon, the antithesis of naming God in the Judeo-Christian tradition. The primacy of Judeo-Christian tradition is to name the nameless. And the primacy of the Tao is that the name that can be named is not the eternal name. Reflect on that for a little bit, because one of the things that Yuval Harari is talking about are the stories that human beings tell that we believe in and that change. And the stories are only manifestations of truth. Truth is truth, light is light, consciousness is consciousness, and we cannot define what cannot be defined. And we have to be careful about trying to impose our definitions of what the undefined is, especially for our children, especially for adolescents, and especially for anybody who wants to move into a deeper understanding of how to be a good human being as more important than how to articulate what God is for somebody else, or what not God is for somebody else. I have met good human beings from all walks of life, and I have met bad human beings from all walks of life. Just as I don't pay attention to the ideologues who try to destroy the great work of Judeo-Christian values in the Western world by pretending that all bad that's happened, whether it's pedophilia in the Catholic Church, or whether it's conquistadors coming and mutilating indigenous peoples in the name of God, just as I don't allow that concept to destroy what is good in Christianity and all the good work that Judeo-Christian roots and I know more about Christian generosity than I know about any other generosity in the world. There are good human beings in all walks of life, and being a good human being is the most important practice that we have before us. And we can meditate on any one of the wisdom traditions and have profound awakenings of consciousness that hopefully allow us to learn how to be better human beings. The advantage or disadvantage that I have, everybody's propensities and talents teach and instruct them certain things, and teach and don't teach and instruct other things. So my value, I believe, is that I am very heart-centered and see at the core of all human beings an incredible magical opportunity to have heart consciousness become a part of becoming the next Dalai Lama or the next man who planted trees or the next just really good person. And that's where I hold my highest belief in humanity. My other good quality is that I was, for whatever reasons, born in the most rootless place that we had at the time, which was the West Coast in America, where there were people from all over, but not people from my specific tribe, not my specific cultural background, my specific ancestral background. I dated somebody from Switzerland who, whose roots went back 12 generations in the same valley that she lived in when I dated her. That's deep tribal, traditional rootedness. So my upbringing was quite the opposite of that, and having my father not be rooted in the home like the Silverback, and not having a traditional religious upbringing like my good friend Tom, who we're going to have conversations about this, I was all over the place. And I know a lot of people who were all over the place and are still all over the place. So I don't find instability of any value. I do find taking root as extremely valuable. And so my sense of rootedness, I learned from nature, and I learned from spiritual practice, and I learned from Christianity and Judaism and Taoism and Buddhism. All of them have the tree of life as a symbol for being rooted to the earth and reaching and open to the cosmos. And I'd like people to find that in their religious practice, because the nature symbolism in each one of the major religions of the world is something that reminds us that religions are born from man's primal experience, evolving in and from and through the wilderness. And some of our deepest, most profound connection to whether it's self or God in self, or self in God, consciousness, God consciousness, light consciousness. It all comes from the same source. We all come from the same source. We all come with the same potential for awareness and consciousness, and we are all ideally tuning in because we want to become better human beings and bring deeper awareness into our consciousness. And so if you listen, okay, here's something. Go on YouTube and listen to Bill Clinton's inaugural address. No, sorry. Go and listen to Maya Angelou's poem at Bill Clinton's inaugural address. Listen to the beginning of her poem, where she talks about the rock, the river, and the tree. And this is deeply rooted in the Judeo-Christian Bible, and this is deeply rooted in Hinduism, and this is deeply rooted in Taoism and Buddhism. And I have to beg everybody's pardon because I cannot speak about Islam because I haven't really made a study of Islam. But the tree of life, the river, the rock are powerful. They are powerful metaphors. Namaste. Subscribe. Keep listening. Sending me your stories and what's of interest to you. Let's keep the conversation going.